Okay, so last one. There are a lot of different reporting functions in SMARTABASE, and we're not going to go through all of them in great detail. We're going to basically run over them. We're going to do a bit of dual screening here, and it's going to be a bit visually crazy. So, but I think that's a good way to get through it quite quickly. What we want to do here is set flags off for everybody. This is not a technical training session. This is what are the options? When are they useful? When are they not so useful? What do you have to do? How complex are they? What are your options, basically? So look for your red flag, look for your opportunities in here, basically. We're going to skip a couple of these quickly, but most of them we'll go through. So, right, let's get into it. Summary report pages are a form, so they're just another form in the database, but they use a couple of different, well, a few different questions. Firstly, they use what are called inform charts, and they use inform reports, which are tabular. You can basically choose different histories, different filters, data filters, date filters, or whatever. These are athlete-centric, so they're about an athlete, but they're a snapshot. So it can be a snapshot over a week, a month, a year, their entire history. You can have as many of them as you want. They're just event pages. So cut as many as you want. To basically, to run one, you just go into data for athlete, pick the page, and it opens and runs. And it pulls all that information together. This is where SMARTABASE is really strong. You can pull through values as well, link values, the latest, this, that, whatever. You can run it in group mode. So you can run it for a group of people where you just go enter data for a group, pick the whole group, hit it, run it, save, done. But you can also add information on them. So the purpose of these reports is when it's not just about presenting a view, it's about presenting a view of the athlete and adding data to it. So looking through, offering feedback, making judgments, ratings, any other questions you want to put on there. So it's about, so this is all about taking a snapshot and documenting the review of that snapshot. So it's not just about the dashboarding or anything like that. It's you're creating new data at the same time. You don't have to, but that's where the value is. It's and that's where they, and again, really flexible, really powerful. So here we go, group mode. So I can just, if it's one where I don't have to make, any comments, I can just cut this once a week. And again, I talked before about that compliance one where I might be counting, compliance, and if and I've got a performance alert set up that says if compliance for the week's over 80%, send an athlete a copy of that. So you see the information that athlete's getting. That's a big motivator. That's a great piece of information for the athlete to get. Again, it's like 4 clicks, it's done. So, and it's automated out on email, performance alerts and everything. So again, this is a quick win and a big return on experience for the athletes or for the coaches or whatever. This drives compliance. Very important. And it also is a trail. It's an audit trail of the fact that we reviewed this information, we commented on it, we met our responsibilities. You know, these are really, really valuable, very easy to build, and yeah, they're fantastic. It's one of the things that SMARTABASE does best. The reports module is basically a query builder. So this is about, we've got all this data, we want to pull. Basically, we want to search for it, we want to filter it by variables or date ranges or conditions or whatever. We want to, you know, and you can get as crazy as you want with that. You can have as many filters as you want, you know, whatever. Multiple date ranges, get as crazy as you want. Basically, the purpose of these, it's all about distributing. Once you've done that, there's then a lot of functions for distributing that information, and we're going to go through some of those in a minute. So. The complexity is basic. I mean, it's something that all system users who have access to this permission should know how to use, and it's not very hard. It's a matter of picking your form, picking your date range, picking your filters that you're interested in, and hitting run. It's not complicated. You can then go down on the side, and you can choose do a wellness thing or something. You can choose fields that are in or out of the view. So you might not want to see everything. You might just want to see 5 important variables. So again, you just tweak your view. You just get to what you want. Once you've got that view, so you've got a nice view of what you want to see. Okay, and if you've got even things like filtering variables on the form, grouping variables like different injury codes or time of season or whatever, that'll bust that out, and you can compare and have metrics for each of them. And there's a lot of things that happen there. Once you've got that view, if you just go over the right real quickly. Yep. Basically, there's a whole bunch. You can't read all of those, but you've got these are all your functions. What do I want to do with that view? Do I want to export it to Excel, send it off to someone, do something with it? Do I want to send someone a PDF of it? Main ones though, you've then got some other things like there's one called Investigate, and that's our basic data, an exploration tool. It'll run correlations between these variables and flag anything that's interesting, and it will run an analysis of variance by any grouping variables you've got set on the form. So again, you can get on-the-fly statistical analysis, basic. This is not Spotfire. This is but it's looking at trends, it's looking at things, and it's all on the fly. It's playing around again with data. The other things, the two important ones that lead into then the next ones, are save. So if you hit that little save button, you give it a name, it becomes a link in that report tray. You never have to do that build of that sidebar again. You just click the link and you get the latest. It reruns that query and gives you the latest information based on that query. So it's one-click access. You can even set it, little tip, always use include all, because if new athletes come in, it'll actually add them to that report as well. If you just do it for the 20 athletes you got up, it'll only ever give it to you for that 20 athletes, because you might want one or the other. Anyway, so from now on, anytime you come in, you do that, and it just fills in the sidebar, gives you the same, gives you the query. Now, if that's something that's then interesting, now you can save that to other people's reports tray as well. So you can prepare these for coaches, send them to them, little links there, they can have a look, then they can delete it. So again, drawing people's attention to things. If it's important to you, if it's something that you want to keep your eye on regularly, then that's when you go into the next one, which I'm going to do in a minute. Kirill's doing it now. So he's now setting this one called Send to Front Page. So this sets up a front page report. So all it does is it basically puts that query on your home page, so you don't even have to go here to get it. So the real pros of this, look, it's versatile, there's very little maintenance, there's no building, it's front-end customization, so the users can knock themselves out. They can't break anything, they can't do anything wrong. The only thing they can break is their own view, and then you can just delete it and clean it in a couple of seconds. So really versatile. They can own their reports, they can use them the way they want to, they can send them to people, they can do all those things. There's a lot of value there, and it's simple to get the value out of it. Cons, downsides, there's no chart visuals, it's purely tabular. It does have all the colour coding and things like that. You only can do one form at a time. So unless, so you're only pulling up one sort of data set at a time. It doesn't have multiple data sets next to each other. So it's not a holistic view. You can build summary report forms and pull parts of those to build a holistic view if you want, and you can again do that as much as you want. So you can build as big a dashboards as you want actually in them, but there's the extra step of creating the summary report form. And there's other ways to do it, as you'll see in a minute. But I guess if you've got a new coach coming to the system, this might be intimidating. Oh, I don't want to learn how to use this. Okay, there's other options which we'll get to. Front page report. So basically Kirill just set that to his front page, and now as soon as you log in, notice the custom page layout as well. But there it is, bang, first thing you see. Okay, and again, depending on the information, this is where the colour coding again, it's about implementing the system properly, use the colour coding, draw people's attention to reds and greens, draw people's attention to things where they need to go, oh, okay, I better have a look at that. All interactive, so you click it, it opens a record, so it takes you straight to the information. And again, these are completely dynamic, so they're based on a query, not a set piece of data. So in the future, every time you go back to that home page, it's refreshed based on new information. So if you set one up for today's wellness, every time you look, it's today's wellness. You don't have to run it every day, it's just there. So again, it's all about automation and quick access to what people need to know. Again, totally customizable. You can do it for people or they can do it themselves. So again, really, relatively really simple to implement, but a good return on user experience. So typical users for that, again, same cons, tabular only. You might want to change them from time to time. If you have too many of them and you make them really ugly and just have all of your variables on there, then it makes your home screen look pretty ugly. So you want to, but again, you hit the minus button, it's gone. So you can't do any damage, but still you can run right with it and make a pigsty of your home page. So now we're talking about multiple areas coming together on one dashboard. So you can choose different forms. Each column there is representing a form. Well, it could actually be multiple variables in one form at the high level. But usually it's, so up there, you can't see it, but we've got some speed data, some wellness data, some game load data, some injury availability data, all sitting there, basically. And you can look at it next to each other. You can click, you can sort. It's quite hard to see. You've got the colour coding, the explanations. The other thing, though, that's of interest that you might not all know, in brackets, you might want to zoom right up if you could, please, Kirill.
Yeah, okay.
So this zooms right up on that. If you have a look at the overtraining data there, so we've got in brackets 14 hours. This is 14 hours old, this data. So we've got currency of data as well. If that wellness data is 3 days old, then no, well, not worth looking at. And again, you're looking at compliance. You're seeing the compliance right there on the screen. Bang, hey, this guy hasn't done it in 3 days. What's going on? So the last piece of it is the little arrows. So that's basically the trend analysis. It's starting to say it's getting better, it's getting worse, or it's not really changing. We won't get into the complexities of that. There's about 5 different ways you can do it. The system's got its own default way, but you could do it with Z-scores, you could do it with this, however you want to do it. For some people, this whole dashboard is Z-score based, or normalised database, percentile based. It's up to you. They're all just values from the form that you choose to build this dashboard with. So for some people, that whole thing is just a whole block of Z-scores, and if it's 2 above, it's green. If it's 2 below, it's red, and they just do in between, whatever. It's how your method, it suits your method, not our method. You can then drill to a second level dashboard. So you click one of the things, you go to the next thing, you can set up which variables are on here and have a look at, okay, well, these are the 5 things in wellness I actually want to look at. Same thing, sort it, look at changes, all that sort of thing. I want more, keep drilling. Now you get into another module which actually is the athlete history module. So now we're into a situation where we actually get the full history. We can go back as far as we want. We've got some basic charting down there. Again, we know we want to improve those, but this is about quick information for people. It's not about running into a board meeting and handing out something that looks immaculate. This is about giving people what they need on the spot. So yeah, and then from there straight into the raw data. So it's exploration. Start right at the top, dig as far as you want to go, and when you want to get out, just hit home. So again, it's about getting quick access to those things. So the downside of it, it's only able to be built by the builder. Your builder has to build it. You can't front end set up your own dashboards in this module. This is a back end thing. So you have to go and get your builder to do it for you. But it does vary by role. So if you're a medical person, you can have a medical looking dashboard. It's based on the forms that you have access to and which ones have been published to this dashboard. So again, different users would have completely different dashboards if you want to do that. Again, it's just standard functionality. And they're actually very easy for your builder to build. They take minutes to set up. It's not a hard thing. So these are great. This is now, you're starting to get into management stuff. Well, everybody, but especially coaches and managers, this is what they want. 1 page, bang, what's going on, what's red, what's green, is it getting better, is it getting worse, and when did you measure it? That's it. What else do you need to know as a coach? Okay, so Excel is a fantastic reporting tool, but it's a lousy database, is what I say to people. As soon as you start to get a decent amount of data going into it, you've got 80 megabyte files that crash, that freeze your computer. How do you share them with people? Do you Dropbox them? What if 2 people have got them open? What if someone overwrites something? What if someone changes a formula? You've all used Excel, you've all had all of those issues. But it is great in the fact that, and the reason it's great is for the same big thing of SMARTABASE, soft customization. You can build what you want without talking to a programmer. No offence to programmers, sorry guys. But you can, so you can soft customize, you can get what you want and you can get it quickly. So that's just, Excel reports. So this was our first one, this was Excel reports. So basically, again, uses for this is anything Excel can do. So it's big level dashboards, it's individual reports, team reports, mixture of the two, whatever. What it's about is just basically to set these up, there's different ways you can do it. So you can do it for a whole team, or you can spit out an Excel file for every player in a team. There's all these different options, 1,000,001 options, but you can create what you want. So you can get these levels of visualization, and again, it's limited by Excel. The good thing is a lot of people know how to use Excel already, so we don't have to train them or upskill them in how to build these things. It's not a spot fire, but it meets a need at a certain level. That's for sure. And there's a lot of people that can do it for you, or you can do it yourself. So The main thing about Excel reports and what differs from the next one I'm going to show you, which is live reports, well, you can do it in that as well, but this is about being able to have flexibility in terms of, especially in terms around date ranges and athlete ranges. So if Pete backs up, so the way this works, and just to give you an example, so Pete, can you go back to that and just show the raw thing, the raw tab? No, it's in there. Oh, you're right. So the way this works is when you set up the report, you spit out it spits out a bunch of raw data in a nice flat format, and then you reference that in Excel and you build what you want. And you can spit out as many different data sources as you want. You can spit out every form in the whole site if you want to, if your computer will open the file. So you can build whatever you want, combining as many different things as you want. It can be for one data area or everything. When you finish that, you then actually upload it back into SMARTABASE and it resides on the server. And then we've actually got a little engine in there which kind of recreates it. So the good thing about this is it has flexible date ranges and flexible athlete, selection. So let's say I'm in a, wherever, let's say I'm in a pro team. And it's obvious in a multi-sport environment, but let's say in a pro team, I've created this awesome report for the senior team. Once I put it up here, if I let them, I can keep it private, but I could make it public. All the academy can use it, all the other teams can use it, anyone using the system who's got permission can use it for their athletes. Because what it does is basically based on the athletes you choose and the date range you choose, it refills that raw tab on the file and spits the Excel file back out, and then everything just recompiles in Excel. So you've got great flexibility of switching to different groups, things like that. So that's the power of it. The other thing is that it's stored in SMARTABASE. So if you're travelling and you haven't got your computer, you go to an internet cafe. As long as I've got Excel installed, you can go in, run it out. There you go. So you don't have to carry that Excel file with you even. It's on the web. Cons, there's additional workflow, so if a coach wants to get a quick dashboard, do they want to go in and choose the group, choose the athletes, choose the date range and hit run? No. It's 3 or 4 steps they just don't want to have to even know how to do, not interested. So it's not for everybody. Again, this is about your performance analysis, your management, your sports scientists, coaches who want to do this and are prepared to do those 4 clicks, basically, is what it comes down to. So the other cons about this is that it is version specific at the moment, so it's based on a library. So at the moment it's limited to Excel up to 0307. So if you've got 10 or 13, you have to it back saves it anyway. But you can lose some of the really high level features of the newer ones of 2010, 2013. Good example, I know I'm rambling again. In, I think, 2007, you could only have, 3 or 4 levels of conditional formatting to do the colouring. In the next one, you could have as many as you wanted. So there's a few limitations like that. The other issue is Mac versus PC. So, for instance, if you create something in the PC version which uses pivot charts, Mac doesn't do pivot charts. So you've got to think about that when you design these things and make sure they're going to be cross-compatible with anyone who's going to be using them. So that's the quid pro quo. But, again, it's about just testing and making sure it's all right. But, yeah, it's just about, pivot. Again, most people, you will use pivot tables, pivot charts, but it's just whatever Excel does. It's just Excel. Now, this is a really good example of when, and again, a lot of the time, when we go in and start a project, we don't start with, okay, here's a blank piece of paper and a pen, what do you want? We go in and we say, what are you doing? Give us your Excel files, let's have a look at them. What have you got? And the process of basically getting them live is saying, okay, what we need to do is take this Excel file. If we're lucky, they've built it well to start with, and it's all got it's all got nice flat source data. If not, it's a bit more work. But if we go in, it all starts with that kind of flat view. All we need to do is have that open, spit out the template from SMARTABASE, copy the tab across, relink the thing, and shove it back up in a SMARTABASE. It's not a huge job. So again, and they're instantly live. So what we're doing though is we're switching the data entry to someone having to type it into Excel in a shared file on a server somewhere or whatever, to the data's going in through mobile apps, it's coming in through here, it's coming in through there, you've reduced the risk, it's centralised, etc., but same output. So that's really, again, that, and again, going back to return on investment for the business, it's protected, it keeps going. If the guy leaves, it's on the server, it's there, you can just keep using it. So there's, again, it's more than just technical. It's about the business and your risk and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, again, sky's the limit.
So just touching on that, this is an example of an exact replicate report that I was able to build for a coach that was interested in SMARTABASE, and he said, this is the GPS report I currently produce for the coaches, can you make that? And pretty much cell-to-cell perfect, exactly the same colours as his existing report. All we really had to do was just tell his existing tables to look at our source data. So quite often there's a lot of reports we can do where all we need to do is just replace your existing data tab, and then we can just relink up any potential pivot tables. But again, you know, that varies from report to report. I'm sure a lot of you guys have some pretty...
We've seen some doozies, that's for sure.
But yeah, just an example of, like Markus said, the typical workflow that we go through. What's your report? If it does all come from a single tab of data, can we replace that? And then you might be able to get away with running your same report, which means less transition or change for you.
And again, no double entry, because the worst thing you can do is have people, oh, I've got to punch into Excel and I've got to punch into SMARTABASE until they get the report set up. You've got to minimise that. It's critical.
Yeah. And just again, sorry, just to touch on that, from a risk management point of view, again, if all the data, the raw data is in SMARTABASE, if you've got to change a coach, or change a coach, or change a coach, new fitness guy comes in, his GPS report's very different, that's fine. Here's all the last couple of years worth of data and plug that into your existing reports, and you can keep looking at your pretty reports the way you like to look at it, but all the data lives in a flat file somewhere that you can then retrieve. So if he ends up leaving, a new guy comes in, he reports differently, it's all okay.
Okay, so this actually dates back to, we did this a few years ago, I think it was for the Wallabies or someone. They had a stats feed coming in from performance analysis data set. They wanted a sideline report during the game as the feed was coming in, because they were getting a live feed as the game was going on, and they wanted sideline information in the way they wanted to see it. So what we did was we sort of basically set up what we just showed you, but in a live way that circumnavigated much of what we just explained. So it's called a live Excel report. So again, it's about anything you'd want to do with Excel. It's actually the same as the last one, and actually a bit simpler, I think, to set up, which we'll explain in a minute. So again, it's great for power users. It is, and this is a really good one, it's Excel version independent, and you'll see why in a minute. So it doesn't matter what version of Excel you've got, it doesn't matter if you're Mac or PC, as long as it works the first time on that device, and you build it on that device, then it'll keep working on that device. So it gets around that issue. The workflow is much easier, which we'll again talk about in a minute. And yeah, there's a high potential for user involvement, because they can you're basically setting up feeds for them that they can pick up in Excel and do what they want with, without having that builder access or that advanced power user sort of level in the system. So the way it works, I told you before, we went back to SMARTABASE, and we set up those. We're in the reports module, and we hit that save button, which created that little link that sat in the report tray. Okay, so it's a saved report. You quickly show that, please, Pete. So one of these. So if you hit clear, those little links are saved reports. They are given an internet address. They're given a secure internet address that you can pick up in Excel. Not just Excel, I'll get to that later, but you can pick that up in Excel. So what you do is you go to Excel and you go to this thing up the top called the data connection. You put in your you can't see it, but you put in your site address and a little bit of syntax, and you deleted it, you dummy. And then basically live report and what you call that view when you hit save, and that's it. So while Pete's doing that, so what you do is then you, when you've got that in and you hit go, it actually, again, API, it talks to SMARTABASE through the back end, picks up that feed, so it picks up a table of data, and you got the...
Yeah,
I got it. Hang on, I got it here.
So what I'm trying to do now on this sheet is actually set up that live data connection. So it's the URL of your site, and then that little suffix that we chuck at the end with your report name. All these reports, you need to actually have authorization to open it, so you need to put in your username and password. Don't click remember your credentials just as an extra safety measure. and now it's just gone and pulled that data from SMARTABASE into this feed. Now I can go and import that into a workbook or a sheet in my workbook, and then that's now just a live data feed that can continuously refresh and poll at a user-defined period of time. So if I now click on properties, I can specify how frequently I want this to poll SMARTABASE for my data. So an example for a lot of the footy clubs where they've got the players coming in to do their daily wellness or their daily check-in, the coaches need to have that updated every single minute so that at 8:40, when he needs to print the report to run into the room to give to the coach, he knows that he's got to the minute the most recent data. Other times you might need something just every hour or every day, but you can tweak it there. So if I make that every minute, refresh when we open the file, and then also as an extra safety measure you can always click this so that anytime this file is closed it wipes the data clean, so every time you open it you need to sign into it anyway, but if the data, there won't be any data in the file after you close it. So click OK and OK. And now you'll see at the bottom over here there was a little poll where it just runs the query, pulls the data through, and we can see these three players, Max, Jamie and Lachlan, haven't done today's wellness yet. So if somebody were to go into the site, enter data for one of those two, the next time it runs the query at the bottom, it'll pull through that live data. So what most of our clubs are doing is they'll take, this is the live data feed or the source data, they'll hide that tab, but then create the nice pretty reports that run off it, and usually that's just trying to reformat their existing reports because they like the formatting of that. So an example...
I've got one here, mate. I'm up. Ready to go.
There we go.
Sorry, you can show that one. Is yours different? You can do yours in a minute.
Yeah, I've taken that one and made it better.
So I guess if you just... of course you have. You can show it in a minute. That's all right. So just to explain, so if you might have noticed, all I did was I didn't log into SMARTABASE to get this. I went to a file on my computer and just opened it. When I open it, I have to put in my password. It's secure still. Again, as Pete said, you probably shouldn't tick remember my credentials for security's sake in case your laptop gets stolen or something. But, and no, that's serious actually. I'm doing this because it's a demo site, it doesn't matter. But it does ask you for your credentials. You put those in, and you're going to notice it's sitting down here, it's saying running background query. It's trying to connect, but it's not allowed. SMARTABASE won't let it until I confirm the password. So bang. Now it's going to pull down the data into that blank tab, just into the raw feed, and it's going to pull through. This one here is just a whole bunch of lookups and things. This is just Excel. So this is just lookup functions. But it's just lookup functions. It could be pivot charts, pivot tables, charts, whatever. It can be a group chart, an individual chart, both on the same page. It's Excel. So whatever you want. The other thing is you can have multiple feeds, so multiple reports. So Pete had 4 or 5 saved reports. You can pull all of them into one file, one per tab, and then mash them all together any way you want. So again, it's completely unlimited in terms of, well, it's limited to what Excel can do, full stop. So as you'll see, so it's sitting here. You might notice down the corner there every minute it's running. Have you got the same team? Okay, so here I am. I can see you straight away, and again, this is what I was just talking about in the last session. This one's detail, but again, this could be the shame board with your compliance, and that's it. 3 guys I can see straight away haven't done it yet today. Okay, so I say, hey, Jamie, do your wellness. Jamie jumps on. Jamie's on the app, does his wellness. Bang, bang, bang. Just got a sore hammy, sore calf. Done. So that goes back to the server. Again, it's now data in the database. You'll see down here. So it's all completely hooked up and live. Now, you don't always want to set it to poll every minute, especially if you're pulling down a ton of data. It might just be open on refresh. You've got to watch that. That's the caveat. Watch that setting, because if you're pulling down a GPS history for the last 6 months into that report and you've set it to poll every minute, it's not going to be happy because it takes more than a minute to pull that down. So it's going to get into a loop and smash you, or smash your computer. Yep.
Can you set that up? Not to set groups. Set one of those up.
Yes, that's the catch. That's the that's the con. What you're doing with this is you are creating a view and you're publishing it to the internet as a table of data. Now it's dynamic, so every day that, again, same as the other one, it's dynamic. It keeps updating. It updates every minute, obviously, but you're setting a view. What you can do is you can set in that saved report, remember I said before about include all versus the 20, so if new players come into the team, they'll get added, you know, that sort of thing. But no, you can't just, oh, you can. You can, yes, we did fix it. If you switch groups, it works. Oh, well, I'm okay. Yeah. That's what these guys are for. No, yes, that now works. Kirill.
So, if you have a look at the help docs at the moment, it will tell you that if you switch groups, they break. Well, not anymore, because we did identify that as a problem and basically got back to our devs. And there is a suffix that you can add to that link that forces the report to keep working if you change the group. There is another suffix that can be used to pull large volumes of data rather than just a few records. That is useful if you're running some sort of data extraction project, as AS did. That is useful if you want to look at a large data set. And again, as Markus said, you've got to be careful with that, because if your query refreshes soon before the data actually comes down from the server, then the server has to deal with 2 requests at the same time. And 3 requests, 4 requests, it's just not a good situation. So when you're building a live report, make sure you test it as anything. And keep in mind that this help and docs on it will be refreshed, because we are actually, it's right on the edge, we're developing them and having fun with it right now.
Thanks, mate. Awesome. Yeah, so there you go. I don't know it all, mate. I'm just steering the ship.
So that suffix that Kirill was talking about is just that and update group equals true. So you just chuck that on the end of the URL of your live web connection feed.
Whatever. It's possible. Yes. Yes.
The answer is yes.
Me too. Now, Pete's going to show you another version of this. So like I said, this is a single feed one. This is my Baby Simple Wellness dashboard, but here's Pete with a multiple view one.
Yep, so just with this one again, pulling through different data sets from different areas to get this summary dashboard. A lot of you are probably really much better users of Excel than what I would be, and if you've got macros in your existing worksheets, you can keep using macros with this. So just even as a navigation tool. Another thing that I've found really quite helpful for the coaches, if you're going to be giving them these Excel files that they can open, or even players or different users, you don't want them to be able to edit or break it or go in there and mess up your VLOOKUPs and your indexes and your matches. So you can actually, if you know how to, you can lock workbooks and it can preserve the locking. If you want to password protect it, you can password protect it as well. But even just things like getting rid of the columns, getting rid of the grid lines, making a nice pretty page. So this whole dashboard, or potentially this whole file, is read-only at the moment. If you want to chuck a password on it, then it means you can still disseminate it, and they can still see it and read it. And if you put a little macro print button on the side, they'll still be able to print it and do whatever they need with it. But then they won't be able to damage it or break it.
Well, the thing is, they can't break it anyway, because it's just their copy of it. You know, you emailed this file out to 50 different coaches, and as long as you've saved the report to their tray, that is the one caveat. So the reports that build these are sent, you have to save them to specific users. So remember before you saw that there was a function there saying save a copy to users. You've got to make sure all the users who are going to use this report are on that. So there's a bit of work there. Like, so if a new user comes in, you've got to redo it. But again, small change again for your power user.
The other really cool thing that we're starting to introduce to a lot of our reports is this might work really well with smaller teams where you're only working with a select group of athletes. You can actually have a hidden tab in your Excel file, hide all their photos, and then do a bit of a picture lookup. So if you need to then run individual reports, pull through the player photo inside the Excel file and have it dynamically updating and changing. So yeah, it's a pretty cool feature. It's just a stock standard thing in Excel, which a lot of our clients probably aren't using and probably could. So if you like that, plenty of tutorials on the web, or just drop me an email and I'll send you a bit of a how-to guide with the sample file that you can play with, or just get us to do it. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, again, it's whatever data you want. It's whatever you want to do in Excel. It's refreshes whenever you want. And those users, they just keep it on their computer. Again, so this is getting back to that return on experience for a coach. You've got a new coach who you're trying to get on board with SMARTABASE. Oh, I don't need all that. Coach, have this file. All you've got to do is open it. And I'll tell you everything you want to know. Okay, click. Wow, okay, right. Hey, you guys, enter your data, I want this. You know, and then, again, return on user experience, it's awesome. Then the coach starts to go, well, hey, imagine if I actually log into this thing. I wonder what else I can do. Yeah.
If I can jump in another little technicality for those of you who are excited and want to go and jump and do them right now. Sometimes to update the pivots in this thing, we use a little macros. It's like literally 3 lines, I think. And you can copy it over from another file, or you can also grab a file from us, or you can add it. That's what I do because I don't really get macros at all.
Rubbish. Okay, we're going to wrap up. So, basically, in terms of the future, no, good. So in terms of the future, I'll come to that in a second. So look, where we're going now. We know the Inform reports, those reports Inform and the Ather history ones, they need an upgrade, no doubt about it. And we're working on that at the moment. For about the last year and a half, we've been sitting on basically a 90% complete new visual reports module. And we've just been so busy and with everything else that keeps coming up that we've been just not able to get it out. It's getting close, so watch this space. The way it works is basically you set a page, you say I want 1 page, I want X columns, I want X rows. You then build widgets, so you say okay I want, and it'll do things like group data and things like that as well, and you build these views. So and it'll print exactly like you see it. So again that's in a high stage of development. So yeah, we are working on these things. So this is what you're talking about. So the Excel report methodology could be applied to other technologies. So for example, Simon showed me before a function of the SpyIQ software from GB Sports, where you are in the software web-based, you click it, it opens a tab in the web browser with the report, and it's got some interactivity and things like that. But basically what it's done, it's taken a table of data based on what you've selected in the software and published that to a web page which is just a whole bunch of HTML5. And HTML5 is amazing, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. So it's very much the same as Excel, it's a table of data that you are feeding to something else to display it. So you can get a web program, you can just now pick up that live report and display it on a web page and get some web developer to create the craziest web page on earth. It's just a data feed that you pick up. Again, security, it's got all of that. That's there now. It's the same thing. So that's an option. If you've got a web developer, then yeah, you can go nuts. But it could be picked up by other things as well. I don't know. I mean, I think probably a lot of technologies have this function. I mean, Spotify has it, and a bunch of different things have it. So it's a great feature. Spotify then comes in at that next level exploration. You know, that's a whole other level. You know, you're really talking about, again, a very advanced piece of software. Plus then you've got the analytics that go on top of it, the advanced statistical analysis, things like that. That really is another beast. But you know, the sky's the limit with that. So, summary, there's a lot of options. Again, it comes down to asking the questions, what do you actually want to do? Talk to us, resource it, prioritise it, get it done. There's a million and one options, and I always cry when I catch up with someone and they're like, oh yeah, it's going all right, we've built a whole bunch of stuff, but no one's really getting on board with it. And you go and have a look and they've got no colour coding, they've got no summary reports, they've got no live reports, they've got no Excel reports, the performance summary dashboard is underdeveloped or rubbish, and you're like, well, of course nobody's getting on board with it. So again, this is, and what Sue said before, end-to-end cycles in each data area. Get all these things done, start with the next thing, run it through, because that's what drives all the compliance. If you just try and build this monster database from the start and everyone sees it as this black hole of data going in and they get nothing back, good luck, you know, it just won't happen. So yeah, you need to ask the questions. Again, it's a bit of a scoping process. It's a half-hour discussion, it's not a thesis. Who is it for? Is it for the introductory coach who's just getting on board, who just wants to double-click an Excel file and get what he needs? Or is it for the guy that wants to be able to look at a thing, top-level view, and dig right down to the last variable? Who's it for? Choose your module based on that. What's the purpose? Is it a snapshot or is it explorative? You know, again, choose your module for that. The technology, you know, like Excel reports, think about the Excel versions are around. If everyone's running the same version, that's going to be easier than if you've got all different versions and everything, because there's a bit more testing involved. You know, is it mobile, online, offline? There's all different things there, again. So, you know, a live Excel report isn't going to do you much good if you haven't got an internet connection. A performance summary dashboard or a summary report you can run offline. So again, you've got to think about when are people want that information and use the tools correctly. But these Excel, I just rave about those things. Todd's sick of me badgering him about it. The way I see it, some people think, okay, we've had people say this to me, why bother putting something into SMARTABASE that we're currently collecting in Excel only to put it back out in Excel? What's the point? Centralisation, risk. I've been hammering on about it for 3 days, or 2 days, it feels like 3. And it's about Excel doing what it does well and SMARTABASE doing what it does well. SMARTABASE is a database, Excel is a reporting tool. Okay, so that's why. And it's about, okay, the medic wants to look at load, wants to look at training. It's about that as well. It's about all that sharing and all that linking and everything. We will continue on this. I mean, we obviously, reporting is super important. We're not just about creating a monster database. So we're on it, but we're busy. But look, there's a lot of great tools already. You just got to use them, ask the right questions, talk to us, and get into it. Okay, thank you very much. Great day. Thank you for your patience and listening.